welcome you on behalf of Quick Start. And it's a pleasure to have you all here. Hopefully, I know 1 hour is definitely a quick sneak peek on a topic like SnapMirror, but you would go back with the basic information. And please feel free to ask questions if you have, because I totally understand that it's a very, very big topic, one of the very hot topic and mostly used everywhere. If you are part of Netapp, you will one day or the other have to be using this because it's most popularly used method for data protection. And we will be going through this we were mentioning that I've been doing more webinars, and lots of times they were on basic things, but this time we are doing on snap mirroring, which is a little level up. Like, it won't be considered as a basic level or for really beginners. So we do expect people coming in to know basic understanding of snapshots and things like, have you ever used ONTAP system manager, which is also called OnCommand, OnCommand system manager, which is the main important tool of Netapp. So I mean, because it's little like step ahead, we do expect people to know some basic stuffs, because I might be talking some terminology which, if you feel that it doesn't make sense or you would like some clarification, please, we will be more than welcome to help you, and please feel free to ask. So that's why I'm again and again mentioning this, that if you feel anything, like I'm going to talk about snapshots, let's say, and because of 1 hour, I may not be covering all the everything all around, because this topic has lots of branches to it. I would say that you will get a good, strong, basic foundation, but it is too deep to go in, because when you actually go in and you implement mirroring, there are lots of things which come up. Oh, we have to be careful that the source and destination should have the same language settings. Oh, we didn't discuss that. So, I know there might be lots of things which will come up, but again, a good planning is going to help you do it smoothly. So, that's the reason we are here, to give you a good sneak peek. And because there are lots of things involved in it, I would, at the end of the presentation, give you some links which would help you learn more about it. But like I mentioned, please feel free to ask questions if anything you feel is you don't understand. Now, let's get into this webinar, and we know it is on designing SnapMirror replication. Now, you probably, I think I don't have to talk more, because he already explained a lot. My name is Deepika Aneja, and I've been working into IT since almost 20 years now. So I used to work with Microsoft initially, like Microsoft Technologies, and then I moved on to Netapp, which was the important piece, the storage, which was missing. So that's the whole thing. I've been working for different companies, and settled down in right now California. So that's it. And yes, I have all these certifications, because being into IT, consulting, teaching, you need to always be on track. Okay, so let's keep going, guys, and let's look at the agenda for today's seminar. So definitely it will be, what is snap mirroring? Then we will go into the components of Netapp mirror relationship. I would like to put up this, put the expectations, if you have any, very clear, that yes, this is one thing which we probably may not be able to give you like a big demo, because within 1 hour, we will be giving you screenshots of how things work, if things break, what you do. But remember how I mentioned that this is one of those topics which you really need to understand, so that you can plan well in advance. And when you implement, it should go smoothly. So yes, we would be very happy to bring you into a class which we teach, where you will be doing a practical on snap mirroring, and we will go by, there'll be a couple of modules. There's a data protection piece to it. If you Quick Start can go in more detail, so feel free to have inquiry about which course covers snap mirroring. And that's when you would be given a lab environment by us, and you will actually do hands-on. That's a very good thing. But that is, we're talking about like a 5-day course, and then there is actually a 2-day course on data protection piece, which would cover these pieces. So here we go. I will be going into components. Like I said, part of planning is you should know the terminology, first of all, what is used in mirroring, and then how this relationship is actually built upon. We will also be talking about, like, so far, I mean, just for you guys, when you set up mirroring, mirroring is mainly a replication. So if you know, replication is very much similar to that, but Netapp calls it snap mirroring, but it's mainly Netapp's replication method of replicating a volume from one place to the other, right? So the source is where the original data is, and the destination is where you're replicating it to. So be careful in the whole presentation. I might be using the term source destination. That's what it means. Source is where the data actually is. And we will be going into lots of details where we will learn that source is always read-write. That means people will be working live data. Destination will always be read-only. And we will talk more that how, if problem happens, we can make the destination read-write. Okay. So we will be discussing all that. And another point which I mentioned, like, or I would like to talk about, lots of people have this in the mind, that what is the destination volume doing? Are we putting it to use? Or it's just lying idle for primary or the source to fail? So destination volume, guys, should be used effectively by, instead of doing backups on the source, why don't you do backups on the destination or offload tape backups? So, and then if you have to just run reports or just view data, why not use the destination? Or those are the things which we will again discuss, that what all can we use the destination volume for rather than just keeping it like a hot standby. Then another discussion or the terminology which you have to be very clear with is, before even you set up the relationship, which is mirroring, you need to do some planning and some prerequisites. And that involves setting up a peer relationship, which I'm going to discuss. Then we will go into the steps to configure mirroring, because once we are done with peering, we are good to move on. Then I took a snapshot just because there was no demo. I wanted you to see that how OnCommand System Manager does a great job in showing you in a quick overview of how your mirroring is going on. Is it all good? Is it pending, or it's like QoS? We will talk about it. And then I have some couple of slides where I would show you that, see, everything is normal. You're lucky. Oh, here that comes a problem, which might come. And that's what we have to be ready with. What would you do? Now, I also would like to mention here, guys, is a very, very important thing, that snap mirroring, we already discussed there's a source and destination. Please remember, snap mirroring is a pull technology, which means the destination has to come to the source and say, oh, do you have any changes? So the very first thing happens is that when we initialize this relationship, the source and destination are made identical, which is called the baseline transfer, or when you initialize mirroring. They both are identical, and then it's the responsibility of the destination at fixed interval to come to source and look only for the incremental updates or the changes. And that's where we save on the bandwidth, that it's not going in and taking everything again and again, just the new changes. So this is the whole mechanism behind, and we will discuss this thing is one thing, and another important thing is that be careful. When you set up this relationship, I'm just giving you those key points where we get called upon as consultants and people are doing these small mistakes, that it is very, very important in case of mirroring, where are you in order to set up the relationship? Certain commands you only do on the source. Certain commands you only do on the destination. And in case you do it other way around, the whole relationship can go on a toss. So be very, very careful. Okay, so like I mentioned, I would at the end give you 2 URLs, which I give it to everyone I talk to about Netapp, that these are your 2 good bookmarks, or, always keep it handy. One is giving you information about the hardware which you're working on, because there are so many filers or FAS in today's, or so many other solutions Netapp offers. And if you say, I'm on this model, so you can go to that URL and get more details about your model you're working on. because lots of time we are working on our storage without even exploring the backside, how many ports are there, what all options are there. So that link, which is about the Netapp hardware universe, will help you gain more knowledge about the hardware side. And then the other link will give you more in-depth knowledge on lots and lots of topics. I know people do go to Google and other places to find more information, which is also good. But this link is also very handy, you know, to get information. And the last part will be, if you have any questions, we are more than welcome to answer. And guys, in case in the presentation, when you have any questions, please feel free. If I don't see it, I'll like come back in the chat window and answer them back, okay? Here we go inside the presentation. So all of you ready, hopefully? Okay. What is snap mirroring? Snap mirroring is actually ONTAP technology, or basically a technology in ONTAP software. The keyword here is that snap mirroring is asynchronous. What asynchronous means is that if this is my source and this is my destination, first of all, remember how I made it clear that if there is a volume here, which you would like to, I see some question, just a second, guys. Yes.
No, it's just me encouraging people to ask questions.
Thank you. So if you are having, let's say, the whole idea is that this is my volume, which I would like to protect, and I'm trying to replicate it to a destination. So I would get it here. So remember how I mentioned that initially it will be, both of them will have identical copies. And then after that, it would be the destination pulling the newer updates. So SnapMirror technology in ONTAP software provides asynchronous. What asynchronous means is that it is not ongoing. It will be at fixed intervals. Asynchronous means that first of all, you make them identical, and at fixed intervals, the destination will come to source and pull for the new updates. So it's very important to understand that there might be some lag, which means that there might be a time when you're doing something on source and you're like, oops, I did something wrong. So if it was synchronous, before you realize it's already gone to the destination and it's too late. But with asynchronous, the benefit is that if anything happens wrong, we can restore from the destination and go back to what we think was safe and undo our mistakes, or, you know, that is the nice thing about having a lag and keeping destination like at an interval. And that's what would be part of your planning to decide how frequently would destination come to source for the newer updates. Okay, so be careful. Asynchronous is a keyword in mirroring. And then SnapMirror software uses the base as snapshots. Now, we should know what snapshots are. If this is my volume, snapshot is a read-only image of data at a point in time. Please remember, snapshots are always tied to the volume because it's part of the volume. It's like lots of people say it's a backup, it's a copy, but the right definition is it's a read-only image of what volume is at a point of time. Okay, so be careful. This is what snapshot. This is what snapshots are, and mirroring uses snapshots. So basically what's going on is, in our picture, if this is my source volume, which has, let's say, snapshots here already created. When you create a mirror relationship, the entire volume, and remember, snapshots are always tied to the volume. They're not separate. So when you do initialize a mirror relationship or do a baseline transfer, everything from here is dumped here and they're both identical. After that, they will always share a common snapshot to look for the newer updates, and the destination just has to look at the newer changes which will be tracked in the snapshot and will be given to here, and a snapshot can be generated here. So this is the whole basic idea of what snapshot does. And this is the base of what mirroring uses in order for making a volume replicate to the destination. Okay. Now, SnapMirror relationship consists of this, like I've already discussed with you. There is a source volume and there is a destination volume. SnapMirror source and destination volumes can be within the same cluster or in different cluster. Now, this slide expects that you know what is a cluster in Netapp terminology. A cluster could be like, you know, there's lots of definitions, but let me give you a generic definition. Actually, nowadays, cluster can be one node also. Yes, there is a one node cluster too. But generally we have either a pair so that we get fault tolerance, or it could be series of pairs. So in this example, I took an example where this is my cluster where I've got node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4. These are the two pairs, pair 1, pair 2. Now this is what I meant when I started the presentation, that we assume you understand how the cluster is set up. This is cluster 1 with 2 pairs. Now when you're doing mirroring, mirroring happens at volume level. So you pick up a volume. Where is your volume? Let's say the volume is here. So you decide where would you like to mirror it to. So it can be mirrored to another node within the cluster, or this volume can be mirrored to cluster number 2. So what we are discussing is that mirroring is possible intra-cluster, which means within the cluster, or it is also possible inter-cluster. That's what you should understand. Now, if you know cluster, you should know what is an SVM, storage virtual machine, guys. Yes, when we work on cluster in ONTAP, every time you create a volume, you put it inside a, so SVM is like a container which will contain volumes. So again, if you don't know, feel free to ask, but this is the concept that when we work on cluster, when clients connect, what do they need? They just need to access the data on the volume. But we don't show our clients our internal configurations of the cluster. So what we show the clients is an SVM, which to the clients appear as another machine, but it is logical. It's not a real machine. We just tell you are supposed to see volume 1, 2, 3, and here you go. You don't need to know where exactly in the cluster is that volume hosted. So that is the main idea of having SVM, a quick overview, guys, for you. So again, to summarize, we are trying to mirror a volume which will always be part of some SVM. So remember, volume will always reside in an SVM. So if at all you are planning to mirror a volume within a cluster, it will be from one SVM to the other, because that's what the container is. So I might decide that SVM has volume 1, volume 2, and I just want to mirror volume 1 to SVM number 2 in the same cluster. So this would be called volume level mirroring. But before you do mirroring, you will have to do what we call is SVM peering. What SVM peering means is that you will have to establish a one-to-one relationship, or you are trying to create a connection between the two SVMs, which could be, it's just like, think about a logical connection. And once you do this, you can choose which volume from SVM1 wants to go to or replicate to SVM2. Or if you have 3 volumes, you can choose 1, 2, or just for your knowledge, we can even mirror an entire SVM to the other SVM. Now this can be within the cluster, or this can be across a cluster. Guys, remember, so when you are doing it within a cluster, you just have to do something called SVM peering because it's within the cluster. But if you were picking up SVM1 from cluster 1, and let's say SVM2 was on cluster 2, then you will have to do 2 things. You will first have to do cluster peering. Think about, if you guys know trust relationships or endpoints, it's something like that, that you will have to create a port, inter-cluster ports, so that they can talk. So you're basically creating a path. You can also add a password, that I set up this cluster pairing here with a password, and the person has to enter the same password to complete the pairing. So that, it's one-to-one and it's kind of authenticated. So again, guys, the terminology is, yes, identify which volume needs to be mirrored. I'm not mentioning that, but just for your knowledge, even queue trees can be mirrored. Nowadays, we generally use more of volumes. So you can pick up a volume and define where is the source. If the source and destination are within the same cluster, you only consider SVM peering. But if they are across cluster, you will have to do 2 things, cluster peering and SVM peering, before even we can think of setting up mirror relationship. So that's what we are talking here, that SnapMirror source and destination volume can be in the same, which will be intra, or different, inter. If you're doing intra, you just need SVM peering and you're good to go. Whereas if you're doing inter, then you will have to do cluster peering as well. So we'll talk more about it. So intercluster mirroring would require you to do both. And here, just SVM peering. Just for your knowledge, SVMs in the older technology, when ONTAP older versions were there, they were called vServers. So it's the same thing. If you hear vServer or SVM, it's the same thing. Okay. Now, another nice thing to know is that people are talking about that this is my source volume, definitely part of some SVM. Remember, volume will always be in an SVM. And it will go to destination in some SVM. Here comes my volume. This volume here is read-write, and this one will always be a read-only copy. So people always feel that, oh, we are limited, we can't do anything. No, it is read-only, it is accessible. So instead of leaving the mirrored volume unused, what you could do is you can use the destination to clone it. Now, again, guys, this is what I meant, that if you know what flex clone is, you can clone on the destination. Flex clone, guys, is actually a kind of snapshot, but what it does is that if, let's say, this was the volume and this is my snapshot on the destination, I can use this snapshot as a base and create a clone. When you make a clone, it gives you read-write capabilities on that particular clone. Think about here, there are a group of developers and they are asking you to give a copy of the volume so that they can do some testing without affecting the source or without affecting this volume. So the answer is, if I create a snapshot and you say, okay, go use this, they will come back and they say, we can't just make changes to it. We want to do some testing. So what you could do is you can create a flex clone and use a snapshot as a base here, and that will give them read-write capabilities and they can do some testing here. Or you can run some reports here. You can do tape backups here. So all these could be good utilization of the destination volume. Here is the picture of cluster A. This is a single pair. And we have decided here probably to mirror between this volume here in SVM1 to SVM2. So what would be the prerequisite I need? SVM peering. This is an example of intra-cluster mirror relationship. Whereas the moment you say, I would like to peer or I would like to mirror another, like the volume on another SVM, another cluster, then you have to first do cluster peering, and then you have to do SVM peering between the SVM on the source and the destination. This is already what I discussed, but sometimes picture adds to it. So I added this as well in my presentation. So far, so good, guys. Any questions? So far, so good.
So we've gained a few attendees along the way. I would just like to repeat, anytime you guys have a question, there's a Q&A box in front of you. Just feel free to type it in. We'll address questions as they come.
Thank you. Okay. Now some more considerations. Like I mentioned, this topic is like endless. Even if we want, we cannot cover the whole in-depth, topic, but I'll just try to pick up some important key features. Now, when it comes to setting up mirror relationship, be careful that one SVM can be paired with multiple SVMs within a cluster or across clusters. So don't think that, oh, I've already set up a peer relationship between SVM and SVM2. No, you can also pair it with SVM3. So it is possible. Only SnapMirror data protection and SnapVault extended protection relationships can be set up. Now, this adds SnapVault, which I don't know if you guys know. I'll give you a quick overview. SnapVault is a Netapp proprietary disk-to-disk backup method. Think about it like that. And SnapVault and SnapMirroring have the same commands to be used and uses very similar architecture, not same, So since we are not talking about Snap Vault, I didn't wanted to mention a lot, but because they go hand in hand, like an example is, which I'm going to go ahead and talk more. I was talking about snapshots in the beginning. Snapshots, guys, is free. You don't need to buy a license to create a snapshot on a volume. But when we start talking about mirroring, yes, you need license. And so you would need license for vaulting. But since they both work together, if you have a license of mirroring, it includes vaulting as well. So just to tell you, again, it's another topic in itself, but snap mirroring is replication, vaulting is backup, disk to disk backup. So here you go. And again, same prerequisites applied there also. Like I mentioned, they work very similarly. Both clusters must be paired within each other before you create this is another guideline for you, that don't try to do SVM peering until and unless cluster peering is done. And another important thing to remember here is I picked up all these points because I've always had these questions in the class or with lots of consultants, asking that we are having issues and they forget the SVM names in any peered clusters must be unique. Otherwise it creates errors. So here we go. Steps to create SnapMirror relationship. Now, to create a protection relationship that uses SnapMirror software, follow these steps. Now, this is a very good guideline on step-by-step moving on. Again, the very first thing you would do is, oh, do we have mirroring license? Lots of people think snapshots don't need license. Oh, I thought even mirroring was not required to have a license. No, mirroring does require licenses. So please remember, verify that SnapMirror licenses have been applied on both source and destination clusters. So yes, don't think applying it at one would apply there. No, you have to apply it on both, which requires you to make sure that you have the license or you get it from Netapp. And notice how they're mentioning source and destination so that you're clear. Then what would be the next step? Make sure you've done cluster peering in case you are planning to do mirroring intercluster. If no, then you don't need it. And if you're obviously you would always need a SVM peering. Select the destination until unless you are mirroring within the same SVM, which is possible, but nobody does that. Select the destination cluster and SVM. Create a data protection volume on the destination. Tell us where would the data go. And then another thing very important is that it is a very important thing when you establish mirror relationship, you create what we call is a mirror policy. Now, if you don't choose a policy, it automatically picks up a default policy. And what do you think is in the policy? The policy will have the schedule of how frequently the destination will come to the source and look for the newer updates. There are default cron schedules given or applied, but if it doesn't meet your requirement, you can even create your custom policy and apply it to the relationship. So be careful when you create a policy, it includes creating a schedule. What schedule here means is how often the destination will go to the source for looking for the new changes. And after you're done with all these pieces, this is the time when you initialize the relationship, creating, and this is the time when the whole volume along with snapshots is dumped to the destination and made identical, which is also called, some people like calling it a baseline transfer or making them both identical. So these are very important checklist of how you would go into mirroring. This is my favorite slide because I really, whenever I've been called and they have issues with mirroring, the very first thing I do is open my OnCommand system manager. You all know system manager. If you are working on Netapp, you will know this because this is the most popular tool we use. It was called system manager. It was something like a download, and then after that it's nowadays web-based. So you just type, you can use your browser to connect to your system manager. And Netapp is organizing all these tools into a category called OnCommand. So you oftenly would hear OnCommand System Manager, OnCommand Unified Manager, OnCommand this, that. So there are lots of tools which are bundled under OnCommand. So this is where it gets the name OnCommand System Manager, but it's called System Manager. And it's no more download, it's web-based. So people who have not used System Manager or have been using on old ONTAP, just for you, System Manager has also been revised. Revised in the sense that when you look at the new System Manager version, you might take some time because things are like, jumbled up in the sense that nowadays the menus, there's different menu styling. So things which you got in one way are there, but you'll have to look and get used to it. So this is another thing that new System Manager has been revised. It's more faster, but anyhow, coming back to monitoring. So just like System Manager lets you do everything, a lot more, almost everything, there's also a way to go to snap mirroring and look at the relationships. And if you see the relationship, the very first thing I'm looking at is after setting up the relationship, is it healthy? Yes, I'm happy. What is the relationship type? Mirrored. Right now it's idle, which means it's waiting for the timer to click in based on the policy, and it will do. What is the lag time? Oh, you guys have a very long lag time, looks like. So what is the lag time? That since 11 hours, nothing has been pulled from us. Now, sometimes I was very surprised when I saw -1 here. Can anyone think of why would it come as -1? I see a question answer. Aftab, I'll come over with that.
So the question is, can you tell me about load balancing SnapMirror and also synchronous?
Yeah, I see that. I see that. But I will answer it after. That goes in different types of mirroring. So I didn't talk about that right now. But right now, guys, anybody who would like to address this thing, have you seen anybody can think of why would a lag come as -1? Any guesses? Lag of -1, guys, would be if the destination is in another country and they're running behind, the time. So they probably, that's the reason they're saying, oh, there, because of the time difference, it's -1. So not to worry, it's because of the time difference.
So Hassan got it correct. Like, we've got a comment, time difference.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Hassan. Now, coming back to Aftab, your question, what happens is that when you set up mirror relationship, there are different types of mirroring. One is data protection type of mirroring, which is called the mirror relationship, the one which we are learning here. The other type of snap mirroring is called extended data protection, which is actually the snap vault. Yes. And the third type of mirroring relationship which you can set up is load sharing. Load sharing mirroring is mainly designed to replicate the root volume, or that goes back to the whole concept of every SVM has a root volume, which is technically a virtual root. But if you want, you can replicate virtual root volume of SVM to the destination, so that in case the whole machine is down and the entire SVM fails, you know that you also have the root volume. Now, this is like a whole different Aftab discussion that what is an SVM root volume? SVM root volume technically is like a namespace. Like when NFS clients or CIFS clients try to access the data on the volume, they always need a namespace like backslash, how do I get in to the volume? They need a root, then the name of the volume. So the idea behind SVM root volume is to give them that fake namespace. And if you want, you can replicate that. And the idea behind this load sharing mirroring is when you want an identical copy of something to the destination, replicated to the destination, and it's not going to change. That's what load sharing is. So load sharing is mainly, if I have to discuss, imagine if this is my SVM with volume 1, volume 2, and I'm planning to go to the destination. This is my destination SVM, and this is my source. Now I mirrored this volume, I mirrored this volume, but remember they both are available under, let's say there is an SVM Now, this root volume is technically not real, it's just a virtual. So you have replicated the volumes with the data, but tomorrow, if anybody tries to connect here, they will use the same path like root volume and then volume one. Maybe volume two was under volume one. So that path, which like, how would they come in and access this in case tomorrow there's a problem, this fails? So it would be a good practice to always mirror root volume to the destination, and we use a type of mirroring for use for that is called load sharing. Nowadays, you don't have to worry about this if you are planning to mirror all the volumes in an SVM to the destination. I would suggest not to do per volume, rather mirror the entire. Lots of people don't know it, but just for your knowledge, you can mirror an entire SVM. And the benefit of mirroring an entire SVM versus per volume is it will mirror root plus volume plus data. So you don't have to worry about creating a load sharing mirror for that root volume. You could use load sharing for other volumes as well when you know that there are no changes happening. So the main idea about load sharing is picking up a volume which has read-only data or static data, and you're just creating a mirror on the other side. But what I have been teaching you is setting up mirroring of type data protection. So remember again, mirroring is of three types. One is called load sharing, which is mainly used for root volumes. The other one is data protection, which is what we are talking, which is for protecting data. One copy is read-write, the other one is read-only. And the other option is extended data protection, which is technically nothing but your, yes, guys, when you will learn about Snap Vault, you will again learn the same commands, mirroring commands, because Snap Vault is tied inside or is using the same architecture as same log for mirroring will show you vaulting logs and mirroring logs. So that's why I didn't want it to confuse you guys, and I didn't bring up all this on this one, but I hope it helps, Aftab. So far, so good, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Because after this, I'm going to take you in this whole discussion on how things break, how you fix it. So here we are. After looking at the prerequisites, we decided which volume needs to be mirrored, and we did take care. I won't repeat. I think you're already bored of interclustering, intraclustering, SVM pairing, but those are important pieces, guys. So I make sure that you remembered all those steps, you've done everything good, and I see this healthy relationship going on. So this is basically what's going on at this time. Everything is behaving normally, and clients have read-write access to my source, and they have read-only access in case you would like people to come here and do tape backups. But clients are mainly connecting to the source and working on it and doing read-write operations. And my mirror relationship is set up healthy, working nice. And you will love it if you stay like this. But problems can happen. What kind of problems can happen? There could be an operational failure, application failure, some component failed, the whole site blew up, regional disaster. Guys, I like to mention one more important thing, because if you are coming from Netapp world, you might have heard about things like, oh, we can do metro clustering. We can do there are different geo clustering, metro clustering. There are different types of clustering options as well in data protection options. But still, people go with mirroring. Why? Because when we talk about metro clusters or other type of cluster methods, there is always a distance limit that, oh, you can only replicate or data or use data protection if you are this distance apart. You can use this way if you're using vaulting, if you're using mirroring. So there was a lot of prerequisites which we had to take care if you were using some of the clustering options available, and which is called like a metro cluster, or there are different types of clusters. But mirroring is one technology where there is no distance limit, which people love about. Yes, it's happening per volume, but it's fine. I can pick up the volume in US and replicate it to another country, because there's no distance limit. Okay, so here we go. If everything is fine, I'm not worried, but if there was a problem because of some reason, now it's what do we do? Now you will have to do something because my source has gone oops because of any of these reasons. What would be your first step? You will be sitting on the destination, which is still read-only accessible. You will have to go there and you will have to break the relationship. Yes, the moment you break this relationship, you are making this what? You're making like the disaster strikes. Source becomes unavailable. You go to destination, clients are reporting, oh, we can't read right. Panic. You go to the destination and you break the relationship. Please, very important, you have to be on the destination node in order to break. It's quite logical if you think because this is not even accessible, it's offline. So come to the destination and break the relationship and direct the clients to now use. And guess what? The moment you break the relationship, this destination volume is writable. And also my, what do you say? Isn't it? I can also say it's my new source because this is read writable and people are now working on these. Okay. And do you see the direction of the arrow right now? Still it is. But nothing can come from source. So when you break the relationship and you have said, come, you become writable. My next role would be to change this because this is not true. It's not right. Nothing can come from source. Rather, you are the master for the volume now. So that is where I need to do what we call is a SnapMirror Resync to update the source from the destination. So what we are trying to do is let people work. Yes, people continue working. You broke the relationship. People are working, working, working. But remember, now this has the updated copy and this has been offline since it got corrupt or for any reason. Now, when you get this source back, what is your role is you need to make sure that you update the source and now source should pull all the changes from the destination so that he can become going forward, he can become the source back. So this would be done with the command called SnapMirror Resync. It's very important, guys, to understand what is SnapMirror Resync. And please remember, where would you run this command? Lots of people have running this command here, which is a total wrong thing. SnapMirror Resync command would always be run on the source saying that come. I would, because this time he's pulling the changes. He's the destination. Remember, the trick is this is the new source and this became the new. Think about it like this. So this resync is always run on the destination. And by running it here, what you're doing is, if you notice that the direction of the arrow, do you see what we are doing? We are now pulling the changes from the new source to the new. And this is how source will get everything which was done when he was offline. So that our idea is to make him the source again. That's the whole idea behind it, right? So he pulls everything from the destination, which is the new source, and then I need to, that was a temporary mirror relationship, and now it's important for me to reverse the direction, which will always be done by breaking. So you will have to break the relationship from the original source and reinitialize it. And that's where the clients now know that their source is back online, the original source, and they can be redirected to come back and things resume. Things resume the way it was initially. So guys, on the face of it, it looks nice, beautiful, but yes, there are lots of things to be taken care of. If you remember, I told you about small things like, people do this mistake that sometimes they are using a different language. Remember, I said mirroring has no distance limit. It could be one country and the other country. And lots of times people forget that they are using different languages. So be very careful. NFS clients and SIFT clients will scream on you that, oh, I can't access the data because they're using different languages. So, there are lots of small pieces to it, which you will have to be very careful with it. Okay. I see a question and answer. Okay. So let's keep moving. So this was the happy thing that I resumed, because this is the whole idea, right? There was a problem, how you first, so this is very, very important. And that's another reason why I told you that within an hour, I couldn't, get into showing you every small piece. So that's the reason I brought up these pictures to show you how it works. But guys, remember, there are lots of things when it comes to you sitting down and implementing it, because it's a very vast topic. And our idea was to give you a sneak peek. Another important thing, since I'm mentioning languages, is lots of people don't remember that they are using firewalls. Yes, guys, you will have to be careful to open specific ports on firewall. Otherwise, the mirroring relationship will not even initialize. Please remember, there are small things like checklists, like language. You need to open the firewall port so that this replication can happen smoothly. So be very careful with those small things. And that is the reason I mentioned that if you happen right now or later, try going to this link docs.netapp.com. If you've never used it, you're missing on a big piece, because it's an excellent source. Like if I open this thing and just type docs, it should be here, see? docs.netapp.com. Have a look. It's a fantastic site from Netapp, where you will have to choose what are you actually working on. You could always do a search, but have a look how they've segmented the data. So right now what we are learning ONTAP, right? So you can even say that I want to know about ONTAP, and you can go to documentation, which is like we are learning about the mirroring, and it should have lots and lots of contents. And definitely if you go to data protection, or you just type snap mirroring here, it will give you bundles and bundles of information on the checklists. Like, if I just show you data protection, they will have lots of things. See what all, like, again, the peering piece, mirroring. So they're very helpful pages to guide you step by step. And this is a very, very popular ONTAP 9 or like Netapp documentation center, which I really love talking about, because like I mentioned, we can't go into in depth, but this is an excellent source of knowledge. And also the next one, which I would really talk about, is the nhu.netapp.com, which is the Netapp hardware universe, which we recommend people to go there, because there you can go in and you can type what FAS model or whatever storage controller you're using. Nowadays there are different storage solutions, so I can't just say one, and pick up, and then it will tell you way more details about your model specifically, that it comes with this many ports, this much memory. So knowing more about your model always helps. How many ports are there, what is the utilization? NHU, Netapp hardware universe. So these are the two. Whenever you come here for training or help, we always tell our students to make these two as like bookmark it, and always keep it handy. Because whenever we train or we consulting is always like custom, but when we train, it's a very standard training, right? But when you go back, you might be using a different storage solution. Then with hardware universe, you can know more about your storage. So these are two very, very popularly used links, which I would definitely recommend you to go through. And finally, we end up into the questions circle, that please feel free to have any questions. I'll open up if there is any question answer, which I don't see right now, but please guys, feel free to ask some questions if you have. We still have the last 10 minutes, around 10 minutes or so. That's how we planned, so that if there are any questions, we can handle that. We are welcome to, a very good thing which lots of our clients don't know. Etihasam might go over that more detail, but Netapp is so good in providing every company credits. And it's just that some people don't even know about it, that you can use your credits to get trained, which is really good, because Netapp wants their clients to get properly trained, so that you can handle or manage the storage better. So, Quickstart does a great job on that. You can just contact them and you can just use your credits. Yes, training credits, Netapp always gives. Lots of people don't know about it, which you could use for getting trained. And yes, you will come in, you will get your own ONTAP. Yes, it would be a simulator to start with, and you can play with it and get trained and get more in depth.
Yeah, and in most cases, that training covers thousands of dollars worth of classes.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
much free
that's something I wanted to mention, but I think you are a better person to talk
for
about.
you. So it's pretty much free. These are called NATUs. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know about it. Those of you who don't, and do contact us. Our website www.quickstart.com, but there's another kind of sub website within it called expertconnect.quickstart.com. I've put the URL, the address in the chat, and go over there, join. It's an IT community, and the whole idea behind the community is you ask questions and you get answers from experts like Deepika and several others. So we've got a question from Alex. Deepika,
Yeah,
what are some
absolutely.
possibilities if the data is mirrored to another Netapp and is
Sure.
seen on the other side, but partitions can't mount on the destination?
Now there could be different things. You're saying that it is all, and are you sure that the mirroring is healthy? You're doing it, so you're talking about the destination that people are there, but they are not able to mount on the destination, right? You have to check for the permissions because they might have read write on source, and because destination is read only, they're having issues with that. There can be lots of reasons, Alex. Does this make sense? uh, because remember, destination is read only, so it could be permissions, it could be, remember that people can only view, which they have to know, because by default you want them to be on the source only. But if there is a problem and you made it writable, yes, they should have no problem mounting it with read write. But that's one thing which I can think of. Anything else, guys?
Okay, so I think that's it. Alex says thanks, and I think that was a very enlightening, very very educational session as always, Deepika. We would
Thank
love
you
to,
so much.
get you to do more of these. And thank you guys for attending, and see you guys next time. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay, guys, take care and good
Bye.
luck.